Hello everyone, my name's Alan Peart and this is my channel, The Late Night. So, why am I here? What is this all about? I was a fairly strong junior chess player in Ireland, and then I quit competitive chess for 25 years for one reason or another. And recently I started playing again, and I've discovered to my surprise that I'm a stronger player than I ever was before. So this channel is about my chess journey. It's about adult improvement. It's going to be about quite a few other things as well. The local chess scene in Yorkshire. There's going to be analysis, book reviews, maybe we're going to do some interviews, and there's probably just going to be a lot of random talking. My chess strength is currently a little bit above 2200 ECF. My FIDE rating is nowhere near that. I'm about 2000 rated FIDE. That's a bit low. Long story, but it's hard to get FIDE rated events. So this channel is going to be suitable for everyone from beginners up to probably sub-master level. You know, the analysis is going to be good unless you're a better player than me. And even if you are, maybe you're going to find something interesting that I talk about. Because I'm quite passionate about the idea that people who are older have no reason to think they can't improve, be better, learn. You know, some things about our brains are going to be different, but if I can improve and be better than I was when I was a junior, then I guess you can too. So I would like to go a little bit into, you know, who I am and how I got started in chess. So like I say, I grew up in Ireland. I'm from Dublin, and I, you know, began quite slowly as a chess junior. There wasn't a big coaching scene in Ireland when I was young, so this would have been 1980s when I really went to school and played my first chess tournament. I guess I would have been 8 or 9. I didn't have any massive rapid improvement like you sometimes see in juniors. You know, I would say I gained about 100 points a year pretty steadily from when I started playing chess to when I left school. And by the time I was 18 or 19, my peak rating at that time was 2120. So that's the highest I ever reached on the Irish Chess Union rating list. I don't think I had a FIDE rating. I certainly don't remember what it was if I had one. In fact, no, I didn't have one, because I think back then FIDE ratings didn't even start until you hit 2200. So it's quite a recent development that you can have a much lower FIDE rating. I did play a couple of international tournaments. So yeah, I was completely obsessed with chess. I would say it was the main thing I wanted to think about for a lot of the time when I was younger. But then, you know, when I got to about 18 or 19, life pulled me away in different directions. One of the main concerns was, you know, what am I going to do for money? And I didn't think that I could make a living playing chess. I still think that was probably correct. I also got a very active social life, including at chess tournaments. That's one of the reasons that my results started to suffer, as I started, you know, I wasn't really studying chess very much. I was socializing a lot. So between one thing and another, I gradually faded out of playing chess until in my mid-20s I stopped altogether. And since then, I've had a career in IT, and I've had a family. And yeah, for that entire time, so I spent about 25 years away from the game completely. I didn't play any over the board chess for that whole time. The only things I did do was I played online bullet chess for absolutely ridiculous amounts of time. I can't defend this activity. I don't know whether it was beneficial or not. I suppose you could argue it kept my chess brain intact to some extent. I got up to quite a high bullet rating, so even though my OTB classical chess rating declined to about 1900 before I quit completely, I had an online bullet rating eventually getting up to around 2700. Obviously, that's not a real rating, that's an online bullet rating, but it's still, I was at the level where I was, competing on equal terms with FMs and IMs and the occasional GM online. And the other main chess activity I kept going while I was in the wilderness was, I don't know if you can see behind me here, a bunch of books here. That is Garry Kasparov's My Great Predecessors series. So the red ones are Gary's history of the World Championship and games of the World Champions. And then these white ones, there's one which is about the 1970s, and then the other 3 volumes are about his matches with Anatoly Karpov. And then these 3 blue volumes are his entire chess career, essentially, outside of his matches with Karpov. So I bought these and I read them. I think I must have read that series 5-6 times at least, cover to cover. I think they're probably the greatest chess books ever written, if you take them as a whole, And I've heard that some people have a problem with the amount of engine analysis in them. I don't. I just think they're amazing. So this is part of what helped me keep my chess brain alive for that whole time. So what happened? How did I come back? Well, for whatever reason, my wife saw some sort of notice board when she was out in the library and suggested that I should join Harrogate Chess Club. And I said I had absolutely no interest in doing anything like that. And she made the argument that I was already playing chess for hours anyway online, and why didn't I just go and do it in person? So I decided I would give it a go. I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I didn't know what kind of playing strength I would go back at. Anything from 1600 to 2000 wouldn't have surprised me. My first results were a bit mixed. I really enjoyed myself, but I made horrible blunders. And my stamina was pretty bad. So I remember I played in the 4NCL tournament in Hull in 2024. And it was great. I played some good games, I played some bad games, but the final game on Sunday, I nearly passed out. I started getting tingles in my fingers and toes. My stamina just wasn't up for it. All that concentration for 2 days absolutely wiped me out. But things stabilized. I quickly rose up. I found that I could play probably close to the level that I was at before fairly quickly. So I quickly went over 2000, and then I spent quite a bit of time between 2000 and 2100. And during this time, I was doing something I'd never done before. And this might be kind of strange to say, but I never really studied chess before. I never analyzed my own games when I was younger. I never systematically studied positional play, pawn structures. I knew a certain amount about endgames, but again, systematic study and coaching was just something I'd never done. So what I was doing in my return was I was spending, I would say, about 2 hours a night actually studying the game. So analyzing my own games and reading chess books and actually studying what was in them. And at some point, I then took another leap, and this was very unexpected. So I crossed the 2100 barrier, and I kept going. And I found that I had hit a new level in my chess playing, which, I'm not sure if I mentioned up to now what age I am. I'm 51. So at the time I was playing these games I'm talking about, at 2100, I was age 50. And really, everything I had read or listened to led me to expect a decline in mental performance at this age. And certainly that you should not expect to improve at chess very much at this age. That your brain isn't up to it, essentially, is I don't know where I heard that. I think it's just kind of a common conception in society that, certainly in chess, people these days, they become grandmasters as teenagers. They peak in their 20s or maybe early 30s, and then you're expected to enter a period of slow decline after that. All of which may be true, but I don't think it's impossible to improve. I think maybe some things will disimprove. I can certainly say that my memory for opening variations isn't as good as it used to be. I have to study things more than I did before in order to remember them. I'm not sure if my tactical vision has declined, but my positional understanding is light years ahead of where I was when I was younger, and that has purely come from a result of study. So I don't see why a person who, let's say, was a talented junior when they were younger and then come back to the game and start filling in the gaps of their understanding, I don't see why a person like that couldn't improve. So what happened was I got over 2200 ECF, so that's English Chess Federation rating, which is a pretty significant milestone. So first of all, it's a higher rating than I ever achieved when I was younger. And also it's a level where I could actually get a title, which is something I never thought would be possible for myself. So at the a national rating of 2200, if I manage to keep that for a year, I can apply for the National Master title, which is not a FIDE title, but it's the highest national title you can have. And for me, that is kind of like a dream come true. I mean, for one thing, if I wanted to, I could take that and go and play on Title Tuesday on chess.com, which is ridiculous, and I would probably just get absolutely smashed. But it's still funny that I could even achieve it. So when this happened, I haven't got the title, yet, but when I crossed that rating milestone, I suddenly started to wonder, where could this go? What's the ceiling here? Would it be possible for someone in their 50s to, who had a peak rating of 2100 as a junior, to improve to the point where I could, for example, get a FIDE title? Would it be possible to get a candidate master title or even a FIDE master title? I'm very skeptical as to whether something as high as IM could be achieved. There's such a lot of time needed for professional chess, and I have a family, I have a full-time job, and also I just don't know if it's possible for an older person to improve to that extent. I'd probably start having to get buzzed at tournaments, and scanned for foreign objects on my body if I suddenly started playing at 2400 level. However, some improvement is possible, right? I'm a better player than I was when I was younger, and I know that for sure. And therefore, I want to know where the limit is. How much can I improve? How much can people improve when they're older? What works and what doesn't? Can you improve your tactical vision? You can certainly improve your positional understanding, because I have. So this is kind of what I want to talk about on the channel. Also, I think it's a very interesting perspective. Somebody who is returning to the game from pre-internet era. I feel a little bit like a time traveler. When I was playing chess in the 80s and 90s, there was no internet. So if you really think about what that means, obviously people my age and older will understand, but a lot of people who are watching this video are probably going to be much younger and possibly have never lived at a time when there was no internet. So you just won't understand what it was like. Most chess books that were ever written were out of print. It was very hard to get them. You might have a few in your local bookshop. You would have to order them from a catalog, or go to a tournament where somebody had a range of chess books on a stand. It was very hard to self-train. Nowadays you can go on YouTube and you can very quickly get as much information as you could possibly ever want to introduce yourself to any opening, any chess concept, training programs. Everything is there for you, with master strength players introducing you to really difficult concepts. And then you can take it to the next level yourself. You can go on Chessable and order opening courses. It's just phenomenal. It's completely different. Also, the existence of superhumanly strong chess engines. So you can essentially, at home on your computer, have perfect understanding and analysis of your own games. Exactly where you went wrong. That's invaluable. I never had that. And I never had peers who I would analyze games with. So, this is what I mean. I never analyzed my own games objectively. So what improvement is really possible if you don't have a framework in which to analyze your own games, if you're not lucky enough to have a peer group that helps you do that, or disciplined enough to do it yourself, which I wasn't. I notice a lot of people returning to chess now. I'm not the only person, even at Harrogate Chess Club, over the last year, who's come back to chess after a long hiatus. And the whole culture around chess has changed. Things are more fun now. Chess was very serious when I was growing up. It was dominated by Soviet and Russian chess players, and it was all just kind of quite serious. Everyone wore suits, everyone took it all very seriously. Now, the internet has changed everything. So I suppose I don't want this introductory video to be too long. I've told you why I'm here and what I want to do. I've told you some of my goals and some of what I want the channel to cover. If you happen to be a returning chess player, or somebody who is wondering whether improvement is possible as an adult, this could be the channel for you. If you're interested in the Yorkshire chess scene, Yorkshire has a really thriving chess scene at the moment. A lot of really talented junior players. A new tournament circuit called the White Rose. I think it's called the White Rose Circuit. So there's a lot going on, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it online, so I'm going to cover that. And you're just going to hear my random thoughts, book reviews, openings I like. So if all that sounds good to you, welcome to the late night, and see you soon.